Donald Trump has dropped those reciprocal tariffs on around 75 nations for at least 90 days. This means that most nations now fall in line with what Australia has, and that is a 10% tariff. But for China, well, he's ramping that up, a tariff of 125%. We saw markets on Wall Street rally, and we're expecting the same of the ASX this morning. Joining me now is Environment and Water Minister Tanya Plibersek. Like most of us, I suspect you have a little bit of whiplash trying to figure out what Donald Trump does next. What do you think of this announcement overnight, and how much stock do you put in it? And does Australia change its strategy here?
Look, I don't think anybody watching on would be comforted by the United States and China playing chicken with the global economy. And Australia, of course, will continue to make the case that these tariffs on Australia are completely unjustified and unnecessary. The US has a trade surplus with us. We have a free trade agreement. We've got a long-standing relationship. We'll continue to make our case. We'll also continue to help our exporters diversify, make sure that they've got access to other markets. We've restored trade with China, for example. I think the real key here, Laura, will be what happens when US consumers begin to see the effects of tariffs on the goods that they buy, because of course tariffs are an import tax on the things that Americans are used to buying. And really on Australian beef, this is a Big Mac tax. We know that Australian beef goes into Big Macs at McDonald's because it's great quality beef. What happens when hamburgers start going up in price along with everything else? I know that it's a very uncertain time. We'll continue to back our exporters and we'll continue to work to get what Australia deserves, which is a zero tariff on our goods.
Is this just the art of the deal from a New York property developer at heart, or do you think he is bowed to pressure? Because any politician that tells you they don't watch the market, especially Donald Trump, is lying.
Look, I'm not going to speculate about the reason for the pause in the application of some tariffs. I'll just say what we're going to do as an Australian government, which is continue to advocate for Australian exporters. We've got the best goods in the world. We know that Australian beef, as an example, is much sought after in the United States. It makes no sense for Australia, and it certainly makes no sense for American consumers to be paying more for a world-class product.
No, it certainly doesn't. But how does a government, in the middle of an election campaign, so perhaps that's a good thing, how do you prepare for this volatility? What do you say to voters? Because Donald Trump is going to be in for the next 3.5 years. He might be there the next election campaign.
Well, that's true, and that's why we need to back our exporters to diversify their markets. I mean, US trade out of Australia into the US is not a huge part of our market, but it is important for those exporters that we continue to help them find new markets. So we've got $1 billion of no interest loans there. We've got extra money to help our exporters diversify into new markets. We've got our critical minerals reserve that we'll be talking more about down the track. And we'll continue to help our exporters find new markets. I mean, the restoration of about $18 billion worth of trade with China recently, that terrific work that's been done by Don Farrell, shows what's possible for Australian exporters if we are sensible and methodical in the approach we take. I think what you'll continue to see globally is countries looking for new partners for their trading relationships. There's a lot of discussion between different nations that have formerly had large trade with the US about trading more with one another. I think we'll continue to see that globally.
We're about to speak to Simon Welsh from Redbridge Group, if I can bring it back to the election campaign proper now. The numbers show, and they have for quite some time, shows that Victoria is a real problem for Labor. It's not necessarily good news for Liberals, but it's a real problem for Labor. We're now a week and a half, almost 2 weeks into this campaign. Is it going better or worse than you expected? I know you've been moving around the country. Has there been some honest feedback from voters? Do you need to do better?
Yeah. I think since January I've been to about 47 seats at last count, Laura. I am losing count a little bit. Yeah. And of course we are working in every state and territory to tell the story to Australians about why they should re-elect a Labor government, and that applies to Victoria as much as it applies to anywhere else. I know that my colleagues in Victoria, my federal colleagues, are out knocking on doors, making phone calls into voters' homes and saying there's a tax cut for every Australian taxpayer. Wages have gone up under Labor. We've got cheaper medicines, GP bulk billing, this new investment in mental health, in women's health, fee-free TAFE, university debt relief, housing investments. All of these things are absolutely focused on reducing the impact of the cost of living on Australians, making life a little bit easier, and reinvesting in Medicare, because we know how much Australians value Medicare, how much they want to protect and strengthen Medicare. That's the story we'll keep telling on the doors, on the phones, in all of that direct voter contact that my colleagues are doing. And that's what I believe will ensure that we see a good win on the 3rd of May.
You're running a bit of a shadow campaign. There's not in the media spotlight every day to compliment Anthony Albanese, but I wonder, having been around politics for quite some time, how many people say to you that they wish you were the Prime Minister?
You know, people love what Anthony's doing at the moment. He's up in Cairns today with our candidate for Leichhardt, Matt Smith, a former Taipans player.
As the Environment Minister, shouldn't you be there?
Yeah. I've been in Cairns 3 times lately with Matt Smith. I launched his campaign recently. He's a former Taipans player. He's going to give Dan Ripicoli a run for his money for biggest bloke in the parliament. And the Prime Minister's there making a fantastic announcement that will make it easier for kids to see Nemo on the reef. It's a $10 million investment that'll help school kids travel to the reef. We know that if we teach kids early about the value of our beautiful environment, they grow up to love and protect it in the future.
Okay, let's talk energy, because we're about to see energy ministers debate today as well. And I think what is different this election is that it's not so much a climate change election, it's a cost of living election. And people are worried about the cost of electricity, their power bills not coming down by that $275 figure. Is it any wonder, Tanya, this morning, when we see polling that shows that the Energy Minister, Chris Bowen, could be in danger of losing his seat in Western Sydney, which is on a margin of more than 10%?
Well, Chris has got one of the hardest jobs in government and he's doing it extraordinarily well. In fact, we've given households about $450. Well, we've given households $450 worth of energy bill relief. Chris Bowen has added 15 gigawatts of renewable energy to the grid since we came to government. Don't forget, Laura, the previous government, first of all, Angus Taylor hid the fact that energy prices were going up by 20% under them. He deliberately hid that fact when he was the Energy Minister. The Liberals and Nationals have opposed energy bill relief for Australian households and businesses. They were told that 24 coal-fired power stations were going to close and they had no plan to replace that generation capacity. In fact, 4 gigawatts of dispatchable energy left the grid under their watch and only 1 gigawatt replaced it. We were going backwards under the previous government. Yes, we've got a lot of work to catch up on. We've got a lot of neglect to make up for, but Chris is getting on with doing that. That 15 gigawatts of renewable energy that he's already added to the grid is more than Peter Dutton's nuclear reactors will add, if they are ever built, sometime in the 2040s. He's already done that. Yeah. We are in the middle of one of the biggest transformations of the Australian economy in our history. And Chris, I know, is doing a great job at that, is a great local member. I've been with him on Vietnamese New Year and Assyrian New Year. He knows his community. And just incidentally, we noticed with that poll, seemed to be people in Mossman and the Central Coast were also polled. So I'm not sure, you know, what the quality of the polling is.
Yeah, OK, that's a fair call. But don't you think that people are sick of being told that renewables are the cheapest form of energy when there is no current evidence of that being the case, when their power bills hasn't come down by $275, they've gone up on average $1,300, and we have the rebate that's artificially bringing it down. I mean, that's going to have to be a permanent feature of the budget,
so Laura,
isn't it?
Here's a couple of things. Angus Taylor hid a 20% power bill increase when he was the Energy Minister. He changed the rules in the Parliament so he could hide that increase.
Well, we knew
so
about
we're taking
that when
over
you still promised the $275, to be honest.
And Laura, the $275 promise was that energy bills would be $275 lower than they would be without action. It's not, I know that's been lost in the mists of time, but the claim that the Liberals are making about that promise is different to the promise that was actually made. I'll tell you this. Right now, we've announced that those 3 million households that have got solar on the roof, if they want to put a battery onto their solar, they can save $4,000 in the cost of the installation of the battery and another $1,000 a year off their energy bills.
Aren't they?
We are making it easier for people. Oh, they are expensive. You can get low interest and no interest loans. You can pay it off with the savings across the course of the battery. State governments also have policies that can make the batteries cheaper. But we know that there's more solar in Blacktown than there is in Bondi. We're already seeing Liverpool, Blacktown, Parramatta families investigating whether they can put batteries on because people have worked out on their roofs that solar is cheaper than the alternative. And every study from every energy economist shows that if we were to build nuclear, it would be massively more expensive than new renewables. Coal is exiting the system. They're 40 and 50 years old, these energy generators. We need to replace them with something. Nuclear is more expensive, new coal is more expensive, renewables is the cheapest form of new energy.